Pedro from A&P-REACTS. I'm here today with Karl from Memoriam to talk about To the End, out March 26 on Reaper Entertainment Europe. How's it going?
It's all good, Pedro. All good. Very good to speak to you this evening here in the UK in Birmingham. It's quite a nice, mild spring type kind of season here at the moment. The weather's quite pleasant, and I am enjoying a nice pale ale as we sit here and discuss one of my favourite things, which is stuff that I have done.
I like the way you put it. It's perfectly put, I must say. I was wondering where you were going with that, but you ended on the right note.
Stuff that I have done.
And let me start off by asking you this. This album feels slightly different to me when I look at the previous records and when I look at this one. In your mind, what has changed going into this record that gives me that vibe that this album is different?
Yeah, well spotted. There's a number of factors really that add up to why this is such a step forward for the band in many respects. Where shall I start? I think one of the major impacts of why it is what it is because it's our fourth album for a start. So we built on the strengths of what we've done in the past, and we're at the point in our career that we're all very kind of fairly confident in our abilities, and we know what we want to do. And we could have quite easily done a Requiem for Mankind Part 2. That was a pretty successful, good album for us, and we were happy with that. We think we found and defined ourselves as a band with that album. With the sound wise, using Parlour Studios, and the input of Russ Russell was a massive step forward, and a big, that was almost for us the missing chain in the link. So we were very happy with that. So we could have easily quite have done that, but we're not a band to rest on our laurels. We enjoy the creativity of making an album, so we always like to push ourselves and try out new things and new ideas, and we've always done that from the start of the band. When we first started out, we didn't want to just be one dimensional and just stick to the same thing and churn out the same stuff over and over again. It kind of works for some bands, but that's not what we're about. We want to kind of push ourselves and try out different things. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I think on this occasion it has done very much so. So obviously we were at that point in our career where we know what we're doing and are confident in what we're doing, but that's just a minor factor really. I think the big impact of what's the difference with this album is the fact that we've had plenty of time to prepare for it, for a change. I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, normally the kind of like we as you're well aware, we release albums at a pretty voracious pace. We kind of like, this is our fourth album in 5 years, so we like to kind of move forward at a fast pace. But generally speaking, we're usually quite busy doing shows, rehearsing for shows, and that kind of takes up the majority of our time. Kind of every other weekend we were away doing shows or rehearsing for doing shows every week. So that really kind of tends to kind of like be the main focus on what we're doing. And we've always got an album developing in the background, but it's usually gigs, practice, gigs, shut shop for about 6 weeks before we're supposed to go in the studio, focus on the album and do the album in that kind of confined space of time. Which always works. I think that's the way most bands do it. That's the way it has to be. And it kind of that works for us. But generally speaking, it's always, the vocals for me in particular always come out at the last minute. So I'm always writing those and rewriting them. At the 11th hour, almost sometimes when I'm in the studio doing it. But this time around, we didn't have that distraction of gigs. Due to the obvious situation on the planet, kind of last March, the whole world ground to a halt.
Yeah.
And so we had plenty of time to prepare. So, so the music was pretty much done by June, July time. It's pretty much, 100% solid there. So I had, 3 or 4 months to prepare doing the lyrics. And so I took my time. I spent a bit of time rewriting them, and coming up with several different draft versions, so that worked really, really well. And, I even got the chance to demo them, which is a first. I've never really had the opportunity to demo lyrics before I went into the studio to record them, which was a really, really positive process, because it gave me the chance to try out different things and work on things which I had in my head, which may or may not work. And sometimes when you do it in the studio, you put under a lot of pressure to kind of do it, and it makes it even worse. But it gave me the time to work things through, and the structures, the timings, the delivery. And as a result of that, we had a lot of time to prepare. And I think that's a really important factor with this album. It's kind of having that space and time to prepare for it. It's really has had a big, massive impact. And also, I think the addition of a new drummer really has had a big impact on the album as well. No disrespect to Whale, but Spike brings a different flavour to what we're doing. He's got a different interpretation of the drum patterns, and so again, his addition to the band lineup is another factor which makes the album what it is. So I think a combination of all these different things has kind of like contributed to make this possibly the most diverse album that we've done to date. It's definitely, I think the word diversity is the key phrase to describe this album, because there's so many different songs with different tones and textures and styles that feature on it, and it takes you on a bit of a journey with lots of different twists and turns and the unexpected. So we're really happy with the way it's all come together. So kind of like musically wise, that's the impact, that's the difference. But visually wise as well, the album is the album cover is a new journey, a new start for us, a new trilogy that I've got in the offering. The last album was, last three albums were what I refer to now as the death cycle, because they were kind of formulated from this kind of like this experience of Kitty and other losses in our lives, and losing LG yesterday. That was kind of as another prime reminder of how fragile our existence is, and it kind of it reminds us all of our mortality, really. So it's a constant theme that runs throughout our albums. But the first three albums were pretty much within that kind of reign. So this new album, I think visually it shows, for a change, the leader figure, which was always featured in a coffin dead, he's very much alive on this album cover. And there's a bit of hope, there's a bit of light in the background, and there's that kind of green orb which kind of symbolizes kind of life as well. So there's a bit more hope for the future, I think, in this album, visually, the cover, and lyrically as well. It all has come together from us all going through this experience over the past 12 months of being isolated and in these kind of like little bubbles of darkness. And there is now some light at the end of the tunnel. We're kind of starting to see remission, with spring coming as well. It makes us all feel a bit more, there's creation around us. So all feeling a bit more positive. Our fifth year of doing this, it's all starting to turn around now. We're all starting to celebrate a bit of joy instead of concentrating on the misery and sorrow.
Let's just hope that the light at the end of the tunnel is not a train or a truck. At least that's what I'm hoping for.
Oh, absolutely. Who knows? It's still a long way off. It's still a long way off. And I'm sure there's going to be twists and turns before we get to that light, whatever it may be. Don't walk into the light.
And that kind of pushes me to my next question, which is, you already mentioned that the pandemic played a role in terms of giving you guys more time to work on the record, time that you didn't necessarily have before. Outside of the time that it's given you to be more creative in putting the album together, do you see any other impacts that it has had, either in the music and the lyrics and a little bit of the themes?
Yeah, definitely. I think during this kind of this 12-month period of kind of us being kind of like locked away from our friends and our family, and apart from our immediate family, it's been quite difficult for everyone. I think we've all had to kind of deal with it in our own individual separate ways. But the one thing that has kind of helped keep our spirits alive and kind of help keep us kind of feel connected to a wider community is the internet and the social media platforms that we all engage with. And I think that's, in a way, it's been good, because it's been quite a nice support platform, and being able for people to reach out and kind of communicate with each other and connect with one another, and gives each other a bit of strength within their own little social bubbles. But it's also, you know, you tend to gravitate to those of similar mindsets. So, you know, one thing I think that it's created is a little bit more of a polarized, you know, world. I mean, we live in a very divided world anyhow, you know, and I think because we're all very isolated, this has led to that division growing, I think, on an online basis. You always gravitate towards people that have got the same, you know, mindset. It's a bit of an echo chamber, really, isn't it, really? So it's going to be interesting to find out how the world is, or what kind of place it is. Yeah, I'd like to think that it's going to be a better place because of all we've been through together as a shared experience. I think hopefully people are going to be a bit more, you know, appreciative of things that they've missed, and the world around, and of each other as people. But who knows? You know, who knows what's going to happen there? Yeah, well, there is a song on the album, a track called No Effect, which is very much written specifically about the negative effects of social media, because, you know, you see it, you know, you see this online kind of like, you know, people being picked on, you know, or someone with a different ideal that doesn't fit into other people's mindsets, you know, from the same kind of like sphere of thought as well. I've seen it regularly, and that song No Effect was born from a specific example of one of my friends online that kind of was subjected to kind of like, you know, kind of like a series of harassment and, you know, ostracization, or whatever the word is, you know, some tantamount to bullying, basically, you know, and it was sad to see that, you know, and yeah, all you can do really in those situations is kind of like, you know, try and give your support, you know, directly to the person that's being picked upon, and hope that they've got the strength to survive that kind of like character defamation, and move onwards. You know, we all get it. You know, there's the world is full of critics and keyboard warriors who are keen to voice their opinion from an anonymous platform. You know, they wouldn't say anything to your face, but they're quite willing to press a few buttons on a keyboard and say how they feel about things. But really, yeah, their opinions count for nothing. And you know, it's that song in particular is about rising above that, and kind of like, you know, taking strength from the people that you know and you love, and you know, getting on with life. Your haters have always got to hate, haven't they? You know, I pretty much come from a, you know, a school of thought of where, you know, if you've got nothing nice or good or positive to say about something, well, then just don't say anything. Just don't say anything at all. You know, there's no point in being negative about things. You know, there's plenty of things that you can talk about and be positive about. You know, so why dwell on people and make people? Because I don't think people realise, you know, the impact that it actually has on people by saying, you know, like such negative things. And you know, we get it all the time. But yeah, I've got thick skin. I'm old enough and wise enough to rise above the negativity and criticism in the world around us. And hopefully, you know, on the other side of this pandemic, we will live in a much brighter, positive space.
I love your positive outlook. I love your positive outlook.
You got to be.
There's a key word that you mentioned earlier, which is the diversity of the record. And I want to ask you about that, because how do you feel the structure of the album impacts that diversity, or perhaps vice versa? How does the diversity of the record impacts the overall structure, and then obviously impacts the playability of the album?
Yeah. I mean, that's it. You know, we kind of, you know, I was talking about this to someone the other night. You know, and say a lot of people these days don't listen to an album as a whole anymore. You know, they listen.
I get that a lot.
Yeah.
From people that I interview, and I'm like, how? You have to listen to the record at least for the first couple of times from beginning to end. It's
constructed as a journey. You know, we actually put some thought into the kind of the process of what songs are going to go where, how they fit into the story, and how they flow through it to kind of like, you know, make it balanced and make it work, you know. And we put a lot of time and effort into that. And that's the beauty of making an album and constructing it is making a thread that goes through with its twists and turns, unexpected, you know, kind of like songs that jump out at you and you just don't expect. You know, that's we try and do that with every album we've got. And yeah, I mean, it is. I don't know if it's the younger generation, but their attention span maybe isn't as long as ours are more longer in the teeth people. I don't know. And people sometimes just pick out the most the songs that have got the most hits or whatever on social media, you know, those ones, and they miss out on gems, you know. And for me, the songs that are diverse, you know, that specifically jump out on this album are the ones that are the strongest to me, the ones that I take the most joy from. Yeah, I can point specifically to songs such as Each Step One Closer to the Grave, which is a incredibly different song from anything that I've ever recorded in my history. You know, I love doom metal. I love Trouble and Candlemass and all that kind of epic doom metal stuff. Never had the chance, never had the opportunity to record a song like that. And Scott, you know, was really, really keen on getting something in there and kind of something a bit different. And he came up with this riff, and I heard it. I thought, that's killer. We got it. We've got to use that. So I pestered him to use it. And when it came to writing the lyrics, it was really difficult. I've never written lyrics to a song like that before, and it took me a few weeks to kind of get the right tempo and the right in, because it's not the song that of the tempo and style that I normally do. And I kind of generally learned that with that kind of song, the less lyrics you put in, the better. The more space that you give the music to breathe.
Let it breathe. Yeah,
exactly. It gives more, and it gives the words more meaning, and so you have to think a bit more about it. But it's great, for example, to still be learning kind of how to the craft and how to write different things after doing it for such a long time, 30 years or whatever I've been doing it for. It's incredible. I'm still learning. We're still learning how to do it, and that's what it's all about, is that kind of creative flow. And that's one classic example of something that's different on there, And then you got the complete different separate curveball, which is Mass Psychosis.
I love that song, by the way. One of my favorite tracks on the record.
It's Shane Embry's from Napalm Death's favorite song as well.
Great minds think alike.
Absolutely. Yeah, we came down to the studio and had a playthrough, and that was his standout favorite track as well. Potentially because it's got that Killing Joke hook to it, that link to Killing Joke, which having Spike in the band, who's played live with Killing Joke, adds that extra kind of like depth of that tribal drumming that he adds to it, kind of has made that kind of connection even closer. But yeah, again, Killing Joke, my favorite band in the world, on the planet, always have been, always will be. And again, Scott knew with this and wanted to write a song to go with that strength. Never done anything like that before. We've touched on it slightly in the past, but this is a direct tribute and a total doff of the cap to Killing Joke, and we're really pleased with the way that one's come together. Again, it's a completely different curveball, which a few magazine people I've spoke to kind of just didn't get, didn't understand what we were trying to do. And I like that. We like to challenge people's perception and kind of ideas. And I'd like to kind of like mention as well, when I'm talking about specific songs, is the closing track, As My Heart Grows Cold, which again is another big epic melancholy story of life and love lost, and
perfect closure for the record, though, because it kind of gives a sense of finality to the album.
Absolutely. The way it closes is great. For me, that's my favorite track, and potentially probably the most favorite track that I've recorded to date. I'm very proud of that one. So I'm interested to hear get feedback from these, because obviously you've heard it, and the press and journalists have heard it, but the general public are yet to hear it. So I'm very keen to hear what kind of feedback we get from this.
Well, I was talking to the guys from Reaper Entertainment, and I said to them that this is my favorite album that you guys released. I think this is the more mature record, and it sounds stupid because you guys, if there's one thing you guys have, is maturity. You know exactly what you're doing. I mean, you're this is not the first time that you're going through this, but it felt like with the previous record, you kind of discovered exactly what you wanted, and with this album, you put it into practice.
Yeah.
So this album is a little bit more mature from that perspective.
It's gelled, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's almost like the last album we stumbled across it and we thought, oh, hold on, this is it. And now we're kind of building on that, and we're still using the elements of what we did in the past by that creatively, and trying out different things, but in a lot more confident manner as well. And as I say, in that space and time to prepare really did help a lot as well. So we're really, really pleased with the way it's all come together. Again, another phenomenon and something that's different with this album is the fact that we're now on a new label as well with Reaper Entertainment, and I think that's had a big kind of push for us as well, as to start a new beginning. as this new trilogy of albums is as well. So it's great to be part of something new and something fresh and something different.
It's almost a rebirth.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's given us that kind of extra kind of like a push that we probably needed at that point as well. It's come at the right time. And I think it's I think a lot of people are going to enjoy hearing it and give people some hope. We hope, and we're just looking forward to getting out there and potentially at the end of this year when things are cleared, touch wood, then we'll start going out there and playing live, which is what we love doing. It's what we miss that incredibly. So yeah, it's all going incredibly well.
I want to ask you about your vocals, because you touched a little bit on it, saying that you had a chance to prepare a little bit more with the lyrics beforehand before going into the studio. Did that allow you to have more of a game plan or have a better understanding exactly what you could squeeze out of that orange on every single track versus going in and kind of having to have a one-size-fits-all approach?
Absolutely, yeah. It gave me the opportunity to, I mean, lyric-wise, because I had plenty of time to do it, it gave me the chance to write the lyrics, step away from them and read through them and decide if I wanted to keep them or roll with them or change them. Yeah, for example, I'd written all the first draft of lyrics probably for the start of August, and I was very, very enmeshed and entrenched with the things that were going on in the world around us at that point. So he's talking about the ongoing rise of right-wing nationalism, which the protracted impact of that, with Brexit here in the UK, which is an ongoing issue, which featured on the previous album. But it was at this point in August, it was starting to become a lot more real. And then, of course, what was going on in America, in the Black Lives Matter and the demonstrations and the whole rise of Trumpism and things like that. These issues were really at the forefront of my mind when I was writing the first draft set of lyrics. It kind of got to the point where I'd finished doing them all. I sat down and read through them all. I thought, well, they're good. And potentially, if I was going to be in the studio next week, that's what you'd have got. But they were all very overtly political, and which is fine. I don't mind that. I don't mind standing on my soapbox and kind of stating my opinions. But I felt that that maybe 9 songs of overtly political opinion was a little bit over the top, and I didn't want to be ramming the issues home too much.
You want to be a little bit more subtle.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think balance is the thing.
Balance is key.
Is a key, really. And I was aware that my reputation and my history and people's expectations of me to write songs that have got a bit of a war theme is pretty high, and I felt there was definitely a need to add more elements of that to maintain the continuity throughout the albums. So it gave me the opportunity to step back, select the ones that I felt were the strongest ones with political content. Failure to Comply is a good example of that. And then rewrite some of the other songs to make them stronger. And it really, really worked well, because I had the timings in place. I just had to restructure the lyrical content, really. And that's what kind of like made that more balanced. But more importantly as well, it gave me the opportunity to step back as well and add the songs that were very different and give them a more of a life affirming. They're songs about life, and those are the ones for me that are the most pertinent. They're the ones that are most enjoyable for me to write, and the ones that have most meaning, and they kind of resonate more with people as well. I think we've all got to that point where we did it 30 years. A lot of the people that listen to our music have kind of grown up with us listening to our music throughout the ages, and so we've all been through experiences. We've all been through these life ups and downs and joys and sorrows, and I think that's what people can relate to a lot in the lyrics that I write. And those are the ones that I feel are the strongest. As I say, As My Heart Grows Cold, Each Step One Close to the Grave. Those are the ones for me that kind of have a real kind of like depth of meaning, which people can relate to and kind of take their own kind of definition and own experiences from as well. So from that perspective, it gave me the chance to balance it all out and kind of, so the themes work really well throughout the album as well, rather than being just one dimensional. There is a multi-level depth to them, and they're spread throughout the album, which is quite nice. But yeah, as I say, it also gave me that opportunity to try out and test them in advance, because, you know, as I said before, you know, often I'll have this idea in my head of what I want to do, and I'll go into the studio with this fantastic idea, and the reality of it is that I can't do it. I am no Rob Halford. I never will be. I cannot sing. I cannot sing. My style of vocals is rhythmical shouting. That is what it is. That's what it always will be. It will never change. So sometimes, well, it's a great idea. It doesn't work. So it gave me the opportunity to kind of work on those and try and make it work a bit better, or just kind of like refocus it around. So there is a bit. Yeah, absolutely. So there is a bit more variation in the vocal delivery on this album, I think, than there has been on maybe the other ones. Yeah, that comes from A, having the time to do it, and B, yeah, having the confidence in my ability at this point in my life to do it as well. So, yeah, and not really giving a fuck what other people think.
That's important. At the end of the day, that's the most important thing. I mean, if you're going to live your life surrounded by the thoughts of what other people think of you, then you're not really living your life at that point.
Absolutely, you can't go and live your life being judged by others. It's just, you got to judge yourself at the end of the day, and keep yourself happy, and that's the key. That's the key to life. It's all about enjoying yourself, really, at the end of the day, isn't it? You know, whatever line of work you're in, whatever you do, whatever status your band is in, whether you're just in a demo band starting out and you're in your rehearsal room, or you've released 4 or 5 albums, whatever, the key is you've got to enjoy it. It's got to be genuine. And if you're not enjoying doing it and taking some pleasure out of it, then you should be doing something else. You know, simple as that. It should be doing something else.
And it comes across in the final product at the end of the day.
Oh, absolutely.
It doesn't feel natural. It just doesn't feel like, it feels like you're trying to fit something square into something that it's round.
Yeah. People can see through things if it's not genuine. You know, I think people aren't stupid. You know, and I think when we play live in particular, we have, you know, such a good time doing it. I think people feed off that joy and pleasure of it as well, and it does become a celebration of life. Through death metal, which is a phrase that I will constantly refer to.
It's a nice way of putting it, very nice way of putting it. And on that note, I want to thank you for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you about To The End, Memoriam. The album is out March 26th on Reaper Entertainment. Karl, thank you very much for your time. All the best to you and the guys. Best of luck with the release.
Thank you very much, Pedro. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you this evening, and all the best to A&P-REACTS, well, and all the people that are listening or reading this interview. Thanks for your support, mate.
Thank you. Take care. All the best.